The gentleman from Henrico, Mr. Massie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we heard from Majority Leader Cox about our House Republican priorities for the 2017 General Assembly session. The Majority Leader talked about jobs, education, and health care. We heard how the House Republican Legislative Agenda will give Virginians opportunities and provide them with many paths to get ahead in life. Today, I want to be a little more specific about our plans for jobs, workforce, and economic development. The House Republican caucus is laser focused on improving Virginia's economy and thereby driving job and wage growth. We fought hard to keep taxes low and eliminate burdensome regulations. Mr. Speaker, over the past several weeks, as the Obama administration is on its way out, we have heard a lot of happy talk from our Democratic friends in Washington and in Richmond. If this economic happy talk were true, Mr. Speaker, then I would submit that Donald Trump would not be our president-elect, and Republicans would not be in control of both houses of Congress. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to set the record straight with respect to the performance of our nation's and our Virginians' economies over the past few years. With respect to the nation, Mr. Speaker, 2016 was the 11th year in a row that the U.S. economy did not grow at a rate of 3% or better. To put that in some historical perspective, the previous such stretch of sub-3% growth was for 4 years only during the Great Depression, or from 1933 through 1933. Mr. Speaker, with respect to our state's economy, Virginia has historically been recognized as one of the nation's best states for economic growth, job creation, and business. But, Mr. Speaker, right now, Virginia's economy, and unfortunately, many Virginians are struggling badly and facing enormous challenges. And here are the facts, Mr. Speaker. In 2015, Virginia's economy grew at only 2%. And for the prior 4 years, Virginia's economy grew at less than 1% each year. Virginia has fallen to 12th place from first place on the CNBC's list of top states for business. Virginia's economy is growing slower than the slow growth national economy. Historically, we always grew faster. Virginia's labor force participation rate hit a 10-year low in 2016. And in December of 2016, there were 16,000 less Virginians working than in December 2015. Mr. Speaker, this poor national and economic track record is a self-inflicted, poor public policy wound. We can and should be growing much faster. When Governor McAuliffe took office, we all hoped he would be able to produce the economic results he promised, but the facts are becoming clear that his approach to growing the economy is not working. The governor has made a lot of headlines, but not a lot of jobs and not a lot of economic growth. Recruiting companies to Virginia is only part of the job. It is not an economic development strategy. Mr. Speaker, we need a more comprehensive and productive economic growth strategy. We need to keep taxes low, reduce regulatory burdens on small businesses, encourage entrepreneurs and innovators, and strengthen our workforce to attract developers from all over the world. House Republicans will focus on several major areas to accomplish these goals. This includes a structurally balanced budget with no tax or fee increases, and Delegate Jones will be talking about that at a later date. We need to reform the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. We need some significant regulatory reform, and we have a set of common sense jobs bill. Mr. Speaker, with respect to VEDP forms, this past November, JLARC issued a very damning report with respect to VEDP. It was clear from the report that the VEDP has been very poorly run, resulting in lost economic growth opportunities and millions of dollars in wasted taxpayer dollars. We must reform VEDP in order to have an effective development strategy. The House Republican caucus will lead on these VEDP reform efforts by proposing 1, dissolving, reconstituting, significantly reducing, and professionalizing the VEDP board. 2, we will require an immediate, new, comprehensive 5-year strategic planning process. Number 3, require the new VEDP Chief Executive Officer, in coordination with the board, to review all the operational recommendations contained in the JLARC report and report back to the General Assembly before 2017. We will create a position of internal auditor who reports directly to the board and the General Assembly and who is responsible for financial and programmatic integrity. And finally, we will delay the implementation of the Virginia International Trade Corporation until July 1st, 2018. Mr. Speaker, with respect to regulatory reform, we've got a broad package of regulatory reform bills. Delegate Werbert has 2 bills at the heart of our policy agenda. The first would ensure that all occupational licensing requirements are at least restrictive and that requirements are truly necessary to promote public health and safety, not a barrier to entry. The other is his red tape reduction action. This legislation would cut red tape across all state agencies to unleash the potential of Virginia's entrepreneurs. Delegate Ranson has a bill on regulation, exemption, and status evaluation that will provide for legislative oversight of state agencies, boards, and commissions that are currently exempted from the Administrative Processes Act. Delegate Yancey has a bill to waive the first-time application for occupational licensing fee for persons making less than $25,000 a year. And finally, Delegate Lingenfelter has a bill that will require 10% review of all regulations to ensure 100% regulations are reviewed in over a 10-year period. Lastly, our public policy package will include some common sense job-creating bills to help businesses create jobs. Delegate O'Quinn has reintroduced legislation to require legislative oversight of the Clean Power Plan. Delegate Chris Head's bill on protecting franchisees from unions will protect small businesses from being forced to unionize their employees. And Mr. Speaker, we're all going to have an opportunity to vote on that bill today. Delegate Glenn Davis has legislation to prohibit local wage floors that will prevent private contractors from being forced to pay above market wages. And Mr. Speaker, we all know that our Southwest Virginia is really hurting. And this is why Delegate Terry Kilgore has reintroduced his coal tax credits, a bipartisan solution to ensuring jobs in the Southwest and in the port at Hampton Roads. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, Delegate Byron has legislation to provide oversight of the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund that will require 48 hours notice to the legislature before any money is awarded to anybody to move jobs within the state of Virginia. Mr. Speaker, in closing, the unprecedented slow growth economy that we have experienced over the last few years has caused great hardship for many Virginians. As such, the House Republican caucus is laser focused on keeping taxes low, creating jobs, restraining and reducing regulation, expanding workforce development, and improving our economic development. When we do this, we'll be able to lift people out of poverty and give them multiple opportunities to succeed. Mr. Speaker, I hope that when these bills make their way through our legislative process, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will join us in helping create a better economic future for all Virginians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.